Imagine a world where deception is the norm, where people smile, shake hands, and exchange kind words. But beneath the surface, every interaction is a calculation. Now imagine stepping into that world completely unguarded. No tricks, no hidden motives, just raw sincerity. How long do you think you'd last? Would people admire your honesty, or would they take advantage of you? Would they welcome your kindness, or would they see it as a weakness? This is not just a hypothetical question. It's the central theme of Fyodor Dostoevsky's novel, The Idiot, where Prince Mishkin, a man of pure heart, unwavering honesty, and boundless compassion, is ridiculed, manipulated, and ultimately broken by a society that cannot comprehend his goodness. But this isn't just a 19th century Russian story. It's a reflection of a painful truth about human nature, one that still holds today. Why do good people often find themselves at a disadvantage? Why does sincerity invite mockery instead of respect? And most importantly, if being good leads to suffering, is it still worth it? By the end of this discussion, you'll have a completely new perspective on kindness, morality, and the hidden dangers of being too good in a world that rewards cunning. But before we get to the final and most shocking insight, one that might change the way you see not just the world, but yourself, let's start by understanding what society truly values. The world does not reward goodness. We like to think that we admire honesty, kindness, and integrity. But do we really? Or do we simply tolerate these qualities as long as they don't interfere with our own interests? Throughout history, the people who rise to power are rarely those who are purely good. Instead, they are those who know how to navigate human relationships, who understand when to be ruthless and when to be charming. Those who know how to hide their true intentions behind a carefully constructed persona. Niccolo Machiavelli in The Prince famously argued that a ruler must be willing to act immorally if necessary, because the world does not reward goodness. It rewards results. And this is why Mishkin's fate is so tragic. He does not understand, or refuses to accept, the rules of the world. He does not know how to manipulate or deceive, nor does he want to. And because of this, he is seen as a fool, not because he lacks intelligence, but because his goodness makes him vulnerable in a society built on competition and self-interest. Now think about how this applies to real life. How often do we see truly kind, honest people being taken advantage of? How often do we hear stories of good-hearted individuals who are betrayed by those they trust? And how many times have we ourselves felt foolish for believing in the best in others, only to be disappointed? This is not to say the world is entirely corrupt, but it is undeniable that a certain level of cunning is often necessary for survival. Even those who consider themselves good people must sometimes compromise their values to protect themselves. And yet, despite everything, we still long for figures like Mishkin, people who are truly and unshakably good. But here's where things get even more interesting. Dostoevsky does not present Mishkin as a simple martyr. He does not just suffer. He also challenges those around him in ways they don't fully understand. Why goodness makes people uncomfortable. Have you ever met someone so genuinely kind that it made you uncomfortable? At first you admire them, but then you start to wonder, are they real? What's their angle? It's an unsettling feeling, and that's exactly what happens in The Idiot. Mishkin's goodness does not inspire others to be better. Instead, it exposes their flaws. His sincerity highlights their deception. His kindness makes their selfishness even more obvious. And rather than being embraced, he is rejected. This is a classic case of cognitive dissonance, a psychological phenomenon where people experience discomfort when confronted with information or behavior that contradicts their beliefs about themselves. People say they value kindness, but when faced with true, unconditional goodness, they feel exposed. It forces them to confront a difficult question: am I as good as I think I am? And rather than face this uncomfortable truth, they reject the person who reveals it to them. Think about historical figures like Jesus, Socrates, or even Gandhi. All of them dedicated their lives to justice, truth, and compassion. And all of them were met with resistance, mocked, betrayed, even executed. Not because they were weak, but because their goodness disrupted the world around them. And that brings us to a fundamental question. Is it Mishkin who is the fool, or is it the world around him that has lost its way? The hidden cost of being good. If goodness is so pure, so powerful, then why does it so often lead to suffering? Why do the best people seem to face the greatest hardships? Dostoevsky forces us to look deeper into the nature of suffering itself. There is an undeniable connection between goodness and suffering. And this is something that has been explored in philosophy, psychology, and even religious thought. The Stoics believed that suffering is not a punishment. It is a test, a way to refine the soul. In Christianity, Jesus himself said, "Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven." And in psychology, Carl Jung argued that the greatest transformations come through suffering, that those who embrace hardship, rather than avoid it, develop the deepest wisdom. So maybe suffering is not a sign of failure. Maybe it is a sign that a person has remained true to themselves in a world that constantly tries to corrupt them. The true power of goodness. If goodness is not measured by rewards, then what is its true power? The answer lies in something that cannot be easily seen or quantified. It lies in the silent, often unnoticed ways in which true goodness transforms those who come into contact with it. Mishkin does not try to change others. He does not preach. He does not impose his ideals. Yet, he leaves a mark on every life he touches. Even those who reject him cannot forget him. Even those who mock him are deep down changed by their encounter with him. And this suggests something profound. Goodness may not always triumph in the traditional sense, but it has a power that is deeper, more subtle, and more lasting than we might realize. Because true goodness does not seek control. It does not fight. It does not demand. It simply exists. And by existing, it forces those around it to confront their own nature. The final revelation. So, is it better to be wise in the ways of the world, to protect ourselves, to play the game? Or is it better to remain true to our ideals, even at the cost of suffering? The answer is not easy. It is not black and white. But perhaps the true measure of a life well lived is not in how much we have gained, but in how much light we have brought into the world, no matter how small, no matter how unnoticed. Because in a world that rewards deception and self-interest, choosing to be good despite everything is the most powerful choice of all. If this video made you think differently, imagine what the next one will do. Don't just watch, be part of the journey. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss a perspective-shifting insight. Let's explore deeper together.